lecturing, Mr. Park? Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen of the press. This is the press conference calling out Governor Obaseki over his failure to meet the demands of protesting resident doctors in Edo State. Good morning, gentlemen of the press. We have requested your presence this morning to express our condemnation of the inhumane treatment resident doctors and other health workers in Edo State are suffering at the hands of the outgoing Governor Obaseki and his abdication of basic state responsibilities, which contributed to the first 3-day warning strike embarked on recently by resident doctors in the state, to the ultimate detriment of Edo people who continue to bear the brunt of Mr. Godwin Obaseki, abandonment of governance, and deprecable nonchalance to his constitutional responsibilities to the good people of Edo State. While it is expected of government to prioritize the health and welfare of its citizens in this pestilential time of coronavirus by committing sufficient funds to matters of health and rebuilding of the economy, impaired by restrictions, unfortunately in Edo State, we do not have a government truly devoted to the welfare of its people. In fact, we do not have a government, and recent events have confirmed this tragic fact. One of the most recent heart-aching developments is the failure of Governor Obaseki's government to avert the 3-day strike organized by the Edo State chapter of the Association of Resident Doctors, and thus bringing untoward hardship and suffering to patients in hospitals across the state who were already reeling from the governor's 4 years of total misrule. It is most disappointing and indeed saddening that the series of events that warranted the strike was orchestrated by this same government through its ineptitude, lack of vision, negligence, and outright devotion to the profligate squandering of state funds. The members of the Association of Resident Doctors in Edo State have repeatedly lamented their lack of fair and deserved care, especially in the face of new and daunting challenges of the coronavirus disease, which portends a more taxing, more risky, and more life-threatening reality for the medical practitioners by the Obaseki-led Edo State government. After numerous attempts to engage the state government failed, the members of the Association of Resident Doctors recently went on a 3-day warning strike by removing themselves from duty to force an administration that has turned deaf ears to the pleas of the people into taking a break from its mindless and destructive politicking and carry out its obligatory rules of governance. The outgoing Governor Obaseki, was well briefed on the planned strike and the understandable reasons that informed it. He was also presented with an opportunity to speak with the stakeholders in the hope of meeting their demands and drafting their agitation. But the governor, in his characteristic aloofness, remained adamant and instead committed resources of state into his ill-fated second-term electionary campaigns. In In the most heartbreaking news of this development, Governor Obaseki, the governor, who should be after the welfare of Edo people, rather politicize the situation, telling doctors he can only meet their demands once the September 19th election is over, and he is, God forbid, sworn in as the governor in his second term. In simple terms, this is the act of abdication of his constitutional responsibilities. It shows the lack of human empathy and the lack of touch with reality. Definitely unequipped to negotiate with agitating unions, this governor and his government cannot be excused on the grounds of lack of funds. As early as April, Governor Obaseki has in a lengthy broadcast announced to the world that he has spent over 1 billion naira in responding to the coronavirus pandemic in Edo State. Why then are doctors who are the foremost in the frontline responders of this pandemic left without insurance and owed over 11 months? There have been confirmed deaths and infection of health workers in Edo State due to lack of personal protective equipment and other government failures, which the Obaseki-led administration has failed to address, despite claiming to have incurred billions in unaccounted costs to combat the coronavirus disease. In June, the entire world was treated to the sad spectacle of over 200 health personnel in a Edo State coronavirus response team protesting their illegal termination following months of unpaid salaries and allowances by Mr. Godwin Obaseki's Edo State government. This event, apart from confirming our previous outcry that Edo State is now on autopilot, following the governor's exclusive focus on this money rain brand of politics, are undoubtedly the manifestation of the one consequences of Mr. Governor Obaseki's 15 billion naira payment to the tax collectors of the PDP in the procurement of his tickets. It is not a surprise, therefore, that since Mr. Governor Obaseki paid the ransom to the PDP, his already failing administration collapsed and all other government functions became grinded and grounded completely, except for the continuous oiling of the people, unmoved by the disastrous consequences of the absence from work. Then it shows glaringly that we are in trouble, and anyone who cares and groups to challenge, engage, and defeat the cruel, uncaring, and oppressive administration of Mr. Godwin Obaseki. That the governor immediately disembarked from this ongoing across the state and returned to Osadebe Avenue to meet with the resident doctors with the view of meeting their demands and putting an end to any planned strike action in the future, especially as they have just ended their 3-day warning strike, which is a condition precedent for a prolonged strike. In any case, its campaigns have been jejune, devoid of life, rendered empty and uninteresting, because every visit to each community in its rather than exile represents a sorrowful reminder of the governor as he is met by little or no ground, most of whom live disappointed in the governor's lack of achievement. Furthermore, we are also demanding immediate Edo State government coronavirus response to allow for scrutiny and accountability. Failure to do so will only affirm the fact made by the governor's own appointees who reside testing that he has been manipulating the outbreak of coronavirus in Edo State to divert state funds to his ill-fated election campaign. We call the governor out this morning to stop further application of his constitutional responsibilities.
Yes, good morning. My name is Colin from Channel 7. Yes, you have raised this issue of resident doctors. We also know that the doctors are not, if you like, benefits to be paid. Just yesterday, for the past weeks, the staff of College of Education in Kaduna took to the streets, in fact, sealed off the premises of the State Ministry of Education and demanding that what does the
know that earlier before now, we have cried out in this very place and clime, calling out the governor to stop further application of state responsibilities, where we drew the attention of the government to these obvious lapses of his constitutional responsibilities regarding workers in those states who are being owed kudos of their constitutional perquisites as it has to do with their statutory obligations and demands for their salaries. We identified not just only with the College of Education Ekadolo, we identified with all workers in those states who are being owed months, huge months of salaries. But this recent one, for us, is not germane, because these people concern the health of those citizens. You can imagine doctors who are conscious of their hypocritical oaths when they decide to go on strike. It certainly calls to question the fact that they have become tired with their constructive engagements with the government of the state. What struck our solar plexus on this matter is that the Association of Resident Doctors called for a stakeholder meeting with Mr. Governor. But Mr. Governor scandalously told them that he was only going to meet his constitutional responsibilities to the resident doctors if, God forbids, he becomes the next governor of Edo State. So if Mr. Governor is going to put the health and welfare and life of citizens of Edo State until the 19th of September, when he has an opportunity to contest his second term bid, that was not only just scandalous, but it was a scandalous magnitude.
All right, my name is Kefila from BBC. Having said all of this, what plans does the party, the APC, have to ensure that when the governorship candidate wins the election, there is a harmonious relationship and they ensure that this never happens again?
We have spoken copiously to your question in the political pronunciamento called the Simple Agenda, enunciated by Pastor Osagie Izeyabu. If you recall, myself and other stakeholders of the APC, including our governorship candidate himself, have spoken eloquently to the Simple Agenda. And it is because the PDP finds in the Simple Agenda, having gone through it, a passepartout out of the economic and political phantasmagoria they have promoted the state into. That is why they have tried to reduce the importance and germaneness of that political manifesto by saying that it was a plagiarized document. But you know as I know that claim has been rendered bunkum, that claim has been pulverized by Dr. Pedro Obaseki himself, who admitted in a public documentary program that Pastor Saki Izeyabu belongs, the first ego of the Simple Agenda program belongs to Pastor Osagie Izeyabu.